Welcome to this epic journey. Join me in learning English through this video. And stay until the end as we discover new expressions and phrases in this beautiful language together. From broken English to a fluent voice commanding the crew, this is the untold story of how one man's determination to learn English saved lives and conquered the sea. If Mateo can learn English through sheer determination and change his life, so can you. Start your journey today with these free resources and daily tips. Share this story to inspire others. Let's conquer English fluency together. Chapter 1. The Dream of a Giant Catch. Mateo stood on the ship's deck, staring at the vast ocean. The waves shimmered under the sun, promising untold adventures. His heart was full of dreams, but his confidence wavered. Mateo wanted to catch the biggest fish ever seen by man. Yet, he knew the language barrier was his greatest challenge. He barely spoke English, and his crewmates laughed at his broken words. This only fueled his determination to improve and prove himself. Mateo began his journey with small, consistent efforts every single day. He carried a pocket dictionary and practiced during quiet moments. Words like rope, hook, and net became part of his vocabulary. He watched the crew talk and copied their phrases when alone. Every mistake he made became a lesson, every laugh a motivation. He remembered his goal, to command the ship like a leader someday. The ship's international crew spoke English, the language of the sea. Mateo realized he needed to communicate clearly to gain respect. He downloaded language apps during their stops at ports worldwide. These free resources to improve English speaking online became his lifeline. He repeated simple phrases into the app, correcting himself when needed. He used effective exercises to improve English speaking fluency regularly. At night, Mateo practiced speaking aloud while the ocean roared softly. He imagined giving commands to the crew in perfect English. Each day, his pronunciation improved as his confidence grew. He relied on simple tips to improve English speaking at home. He used every opportunity to talk to the crew, even if nervous. Slowly, his words became clearer, and his sentences more structured. One day, the captain asked Mateo to help during a difficult task. Mateo hesitated, unsure if he could explain himself well enough in English. But he remembered the methods he had practiced so many times before. Taking a deep breath, he gave clear, simple instructions to the team. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to complete the task successfully. This moment was a turning point in his journey. The dream of catching the biggest fish motivated Mateo to push harder. He set small goals, like learning 5 new words every morning. He practiced daily speaking drills by describing objects around him in English. Mateo also listened to graded readers' Level 2 stories to understand sentence patterns. These stories introduced him to conversational English, making it easier to connect with others. Every improvement brought him closer to his dream. Mateo's persistence began to inspire some of his crewmates. They noticed his efforts and started encouraging him instead of laughing. His growing ability to improve English speaking without a tutor impressed everyone. Some sailors even joined him in his nightly practice sessions. Mateo's dream was no longer just about catching a fish. It was about transformation. He wanted to prove that hard work and belief could overcome any obstacle. As the days passed, Mateo felt more prepared for the challenges ahead. He wasn't fluent yet, but his progress was undeniable and inspiring. His determination reminded the crew of the power of resilience and focus. Mateo stared out at the horizon, knowing he was ready for what lay ahead. His English journey was no longer a personal struggle. It was a symbol of hope. Mateo believed that one day he would not only catch the biggest fish, but also command the respect of the entire crew. Chapter 2: The Worst Sea. The sky darkened suddenly, and the air grew thick with tension. Mateo stood frozen as the waves began to grow monstrous. The crew scrambled across the deck, shouting orders in broken coordination. A storm was brewing, and it promised chaos and destruction. The ship rocked violently, nearly throwing Mateo off balance. This was no ordinary storm. It was the worst sea they had faced. The fish they had caught earlier seemed like a bad omen. A massive, monstrous creature struggled in the nets, adding to the turmoil. Mateo's heart raced as fear threatened to take control of him. He clung to the railing, gripping it tightly with trembling hands. Around him, the crew shouted commands, but confusion ruled the moment. The captain's voice was lost in the roaring winds and crashing waves. Mateo knew that if they didn't act quickly, they would lose control. The ship's fate hung by a thread, and every second mattered. It was a moment that demanded clarity, courage, and leadership. As the storm intensified, the monstrous fish began thrashing violently. Its massive body slammed against the side of the ship repeatedly. The ropes holding the net strained under the creature's weight and force. Mateo realized the crew couldn't coordinate without proper communication. His earlier English practice flashed through his mind like a beacon. He could either stay silent or step up and try to help. With determination, Mateo decided to act despite his imperfect English. Pull the rope. Secure the nets. Move fast now, Mateo shouted. His voice cut through the chaos, and the crew turned to him. He used the simple phrases he had practiced so many nights before. His pronunciation wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough to be understood. The crew hesitated at first, but soon followed his instructions. Mateo's words gave direction to their chaotic movements, bringing some order. It was the first time he felt his English truly make an impact. The ship swayed dangerously as waves crashed over the deck, drenching everyone. Mateo continued shouting commands, adjusting his words as the situation evolved. He recalled lessons from daily speaking drills and free resources to improve English speaking online. His mind raced to find the right words to explain each action. Tie the rope. Tighten the knots. Do not let go, he urged. The crew responded with urgency, their trust in Mateo growing with every command. The monstrous fish thrashed again, nearly tearing through the ship's weakened nets. Mateo noticed that one of the ropes had started to unravel. He pointed and shouted, "Fix that rope quickly, before it breaks completely." A younger sailor rushed to secure it, following Mateo's lead. The teamwork, guided by Mateo's makeshift English, started to stabilize the situation. For the first time during the storm, hope flickered among the crew. Mateo's persistence in learning English was saving them from disaster. The storm raged on, but the crew regained control under Mateo's guidance. His earlier practice on how to improve English speaking fast for beginners paid off. He remembered to speak slowly, emphasizing key words to avoid confusion. His commands became the anchor that kept the crew focused and organized. The monstrous fish, though still thrashing, no longer posed an immediate threat. Mateo's actions turned what seemed like certain doom into a manageable crisis. As the ship steadied, Mateo felt a surge of pride and relief. His English wasn't perfect, but it was enough to make a difference. The crew began to look at him with newfound respect and admiration. Mateo's courage and quick thinking had proven invaluable during the storm. Though the sea remained treacherous, their chances of survival had improved greatly. Mateo stood tall, realizing that his struggle to learn English had prepared him for this moment. It was a victory, not just against the storm, but against his own fears. Chapter 3: Voices in the Storm. The storm roared like a wild beast, shaking the ship violently. Waves towered over the deck, crashing down with relentless fury. The crew's voices blended with the howling winds, creating pure chaos. Mateo stood at the center, his heart pounding but his mind sharp. He knew this was the moment that would define everything. He could either retreat into fear or step forward as a leader. His English, though not flawless, would be his tool for survival. Hold steady. Brace yourselves. Do not panic. Mateo shouted over the chaos. His words, though simple, carried authority and purpose the crew could follow. They turned to him, desperate for guidance amidst the confusion. Mateo used every phrase he had practiced during his daily speaking drills. He remembered to stay clear and concise, focusing on the immediate crisis. Each command brought a sense of direction to the frantic crew. The monstrous fish continued thrashing, threatening to tear the ship apart. Mateo noticed the nets straining under the weight, ready to snap. Secure the nets. Use the ropes. Double knot them tight, he yelled. The crew obeyed, rushing to stabilize the situation as best they could. Mateo's earlier practice on how to improve English speaking fast for beginners paid off. He spoke with conviction, his words cutting through the noise of the storm. The crew began to see him as a reliable voice in the chaos. A sudden wave hit the ship, knocking a sailor off his feet. Mateo rushed over, shouting, "Help him! Pull him up! Be careful, he's slipping!" His commands came naturally, as though his English had always been fluent. The crew worked together, lifting the fallen sailor back to safety. Mateo's leadership gave the team hope, even as the storm continued to rage. Each action brought them closer to regaining control of the ship. The captain, who had been struggling to give orders, approached Mateo. He looked at him with a mix of surprise and gratitude. "Keep going, Mateo. They're listening to you. You've got this," he said. Mateo nodded, his confidence growing with every successful command. The captain's encouragement reinforced the importance of clear communication in critical moments. Mateo had always dreamed of leading, and now the storm made that dream a reality. Watch the mast. It's tilting. We need to tie it down, Mateo shouted. His voice carried over the storm, rallying the crew into action. Using lessons from effective exercises to improve English-speaking fluency, Mateo adapted his speech on the spot. He described each step carefully, ensuring no one misunderstood his instructions. His persistence in practicing English transformed into practical survival skills in the storm. The crew moved with a sense of unity that had been missing before. Mateo's earlier struggles with pronunciation seemed like a distant memory now. His focus was on survival, not perfection, and it made all the difference. He remembered the stories he had read in Graded Readers Level 2, which taught him conversational English. Those lessons allowed him to think quickly and phrase commands effectively. Mateo's voice became the lighthouse, guiding the crew through the storm. For the first time, he felt the power of his own words. As the storm began to weaken, the crew worked tirelessly to stabilize the ship. Mateo continued shouting commands, ensuring everyone remained focused until the danger passed. His persistence and courage inspired the crew, who now saw him as a leader. Though exhausted, Mateo felt a deep sense of pride in his accomplishment. His broken English had become a tool for survival and unity in the storm. In the end, his voice carried them through the worst sea they had ever faced. Chapter 4. The Rescue and the Reward. The storm had passed, leaving the crew exhausted but alive. The morning sun rose, casting light over the wrecked deck. Mateo stood at the helm, surveying the aftermath of the chaos. The monstrous fish still hung in the damaged nets, a symbol of survival. The crew gathered, their faces a mix of fatigue and relief. Though battered, the ship remained afloat, thanks to their teamwork. For the first time, silence replaced the roar of the storm. The captain approached Mateo, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "You saved us, Mateo. Your leadership brought us through," he said. Mateo felt a wave of pride, his earlier struggles now worth it. His broken English had evolved into a powerful tool during the crisis. He had proven to himself and the crew what persistence could achieve. The captain's words were the first of many to recognize Mateo's bravery. It was a moment Mateo would carry with him forever. As the ship steadied, the crew worked to repair the remaining damage. Mateo took charge, dividing tasks and ensuring everyone stayed on track. "Fix the nets. Repair the sails. We're not finished yet," he called out. His voice carried authority, a stark contrast to his earlier hesitations. The crew followed his instructions without question, respecting his newfound confidence. Each task completed brought them closer to safety and success. The monstrous fish remained the centerpiece of their triumph and struggle. Its massive size meant it was a prize worth fighting for. Mateo knew they had to secure it properly before heading to shore. "Tie the ropes. Make it secure. We cannot lose this catch," he shouted. The crew worked together, their movements synchronized under Mateo's leadership. The fish was no longer just a catch. It was a symbol of their unity. As repairs continued, Mateo reflected on his journey to this moment. He remembered the nights spent practicing English under the stars. Every mistake, every laugh, and every struggle had led to this. His efforts to improve English speaking naturally had prepared him for this challenge. Mateo realized that his language skills had become more than a personal achievement. They were the key to survival and success in the face of adversity. When the repairs were finished, the crew gathered to celebrate their survival. They cheered for Mateo, lifting him onto their shoulders in gratitude. "You're our leader, Mateo. You saved us and the ship," one shouted. Mateo laughed, his heart swelling with pride and relief. The crew's respect was the ultimate reward for his efforts and determination. Mateo's English journey had transformed not just his skills, but his place among the crew. The return to shore was filled with stories of their harrowing experience. Mateo's leadership became the centerpiece of their tales, inspiring everyone who heard it. The monstrous fish brought them attention, but it was Mateo who captured hearts. His story of improving English speaking for non-native speakers became a beacon for others. He proved that persistence and practice could overcome even the greatest challenges. As they docked, a crowd gathered to see the giant fish and hear their story. Mateo stood tall, his once shy demeanor replaced with quiet confidence. He shared his journey, from broken English to commanding the ship in a storm. His story resonated with people who faced similar struggles with language and confidence. Mateo's reward wasn't just the respect of his crew, but the inspiration he brought to others. The monstrous fish was sold, bringing wealth and celebration to the crew. But for Mateo, the true prize was something far greater. His voice, once hesitant and unsure, had become a powerful tool for leadership. Mateo had conquered not just the storm, but his own fears and limitations. His English journey was no longer a struggle, it was a triumph. Chapter 5: A Sailor's Legacy. The bustling harbor was alive with stories of the crew's triumph. News of the giant fish spread quickly, capturing the fascination of the town. Mateo stood on the dock, watching as the ship was unloaded. His heart swelled with pride, not for the catch, but for the journey. The crowd looked to him, the man whose voice had calmed the storm. Mateo realized his story wasn't just about survival, it was about transformation. He had become more than a sailor. He was a symbol of perseverance. The crew surrounded Mateo, urging him to share his story with others. "People need to hear how you saved us, Mateo," one said. Mateo hesitated, unsure if he could convey his experience clearly in English. But then he remembered the storm and how his voice had guided the crew. Speaking to the crowd felt less daunting compared to facing the wrath of the sea. With a deep breath, Mateo began to share his tale of resilience and growth. "Learning English wasn't easy. I struggled every day to improve," Mateo said. His words were steady, each phrase carefully chosen for impact. He described the nights spent practicing under the stars, repeating phrases aloud. Mateo recounted how daily speaking drills and graded readers level 2 shaped his progress. The crowd listened intently, captivated by his journey from broken English to fluency. His story resonated with those who faced their own language barriers. As he spoke, Mateo emphasized the importance of persistence in learning. Mistakes are not failures. They are steps toward understanding and confidence, he explained. He shared how free resources to improve English speaking online had helped him. Mateo also recommended effective exercises to improve English speaking fluency for others. His practical advice inspired the audience, who saw their own potential in his journey. Mateo's words became a spark for those seeking to conquer their challenges. In the weeks that followed, Mateo's story spread far beyond the harbor. Sailors from neighboring towns came to hear him speak and learn from his experience. Mateo began holding informal sessions, teaching English to non-native speakers. He used his own journey to create lessons that were practical and encouraging. His focus on how to improve English speaking for job interviews drew attention. Mateo's legacy grew as he empowered others to believe in their abilities. The ship's captain praised Mateo, calling him an example of true leadership. Mateo didn't just learn English. He taught us the power of words, he said. The crew echoed the sentiment, grateful for his role in their survival. Mateo's transformation inspired not only sailors, but people from all walks of life. His story became a symbol of how persistence can turn struggle into triumph. Mateo's legacy was no longer tied to the sea. It was tied to hope. One day, a young sailor approached Mateo, asking for advice on learning English. Start small. Practice daily. Speak even when it feels uncomfortable, Mateo replied. The sailor nodded, encouraged by Mateo's calm and clear guidance. Mateo saw himself in the young man, remembering his own early struggles. This was his true reward, passing on the lessons he had learned through hardship. Mateo's legacy was not just about his success, but about inspiring others to succeed. As the years passed, Mateo became a mentor to sailors and land dwellers alike. His name was known not only for his bravery, but for his kindness. Mateo's story of improving English speaking for non-native speakers easily continued to inspire. He proved that persistence, practice, and belief could overcome even the greatest barriers. Mateo's journey had begun with a dream of the sea, but ended with a legacy of transformation. His voice, once hesitant, now echoed with confidence and purpose, a beacon for all who sought to find their own. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share your comments. I'll be reading every one of them. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and click the bell icon to stay updated with our latest high-value content. Let's keep growing and mastering English together on this exciting journey. Don't miss our next video. What would you do if the love of your life spoke a language you couldn't understand? Discover the inspiring story of Leonardo, a young dreamer who mastered a new language to win the heart of a princess. His journey is filled with lessons that can help you improve your English while living an unforgettable adventure. See you there.